You're listening to The Issues from the Capital Region. In upstate New York, I'm Alicia Purdy.
Outdoor dining will be allowed once again as New York State regions begin Phase 2 of its reopening plan following the coronavirus pandemic, both pleasing and frustrating Capital Region restaurateurs. The state's 4-phase reopening framework has always had restaurants in the third phase, with a 2-week pause between each phase. As a result, local restaurateurs had not expected to be allowed to begin table service in dining rooms or on patios until June 17th, and had made plans according to that timeline for ordering, staffing, and training in line with expected restrictions. The development comes as hospitalizations from the coronavirus pandemic are at their lowest since March. There will be requirements for social distancing and other health guidelines, including staff wearing masks and placing tables 6 feet apart. The restaurant industry in particular has been hard hit by the coronavirus crisis, even though some restaurants were able to stay open for curbside pickup and delivery. Governor Cuomo said in his briefing Wednesday that while COVID-19 is still a real threat, the people of New York, as well as nurses, doctors, and essential workers, have helped the state get to their lowest number of hospitalizations since the pandemic began, with the lowest death tolls to date. Cuomo also said the state is constantly evaluating activities that can be safely reopened. Albany police officers have made multiple arrests following separate incidences last Sunday in which they say accused perpetrators either caused damage or unlawfully entered businesses in the city of Albany. On May 31st, officers were assigned to a detail to address property damage to businesses and the stealing of property. Police confirmed that 11 people total were arrested, and 9 arrests were made after confrontations with officers near Quell Street and West Street in Albany. Police say the suspects were throwing bricks at police officers, and their charges range from inciting a riot to attempted assault. As the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, a black Minnesota man who was killed in the street by a white police officer, rage on in a variety of forms, Albany is calculating the cost of the destruction left behind from rioting and looting in the area. While many claim to be protesting the murder of the black man, it has become increasingly clear that the rioting and illegal destruction of property has predominantly focused on liquor stores, cell phone stores, ATMs, and some food establishments, all locally owned, as opposed to national chains. As anger continues to explode in the area, the African American Cultural Center of the Capital Region announced that their building was vandalized also during the riots, accusing a white man of the crime. One of the windows was shown smashed at their historic building on South Pearl Street in Albany, and the center says that items were removed and a fire extinguisher was used by the suspect to cover their tracks and vandalize the building. Albany Mayor Kathy Sheehan established a citywide curfew, as did many other Capital Region cities. Sheehan noted that many businesses that were already hurting because of COVID-19 have now experienced catastrophic losses. Albany County Executive Dan McCoy said he saw local business owners weeping after being looted and destroyed by rioters because their livelihoods were taken from them after struggling through the pandemic. Albany officials estimate damage done throughout the city and county during a riot Saturday could be well over $1 million. Mayor Sheehan says she wants to continue the dialogue about racial injustice and changing the system, but in a peaceful manner. Dan McCoy noted that while physical items are replaceable, the scars left on the community following the riots would be hard to recover from going forward. Liz Joy, a grassroots conservative, Blue Star mother, and congressional candidate for New York's 20th congressional district, currently held by self-proclaimed socialist Democrat Paul Tonko, is generating more headlines as she continues to be featured on programs across New York for her strong stance on issues affecting the Capital Region. Joy, a survivor of violent crime herself, was recently criticized and blocked on social media by Times Union reporter Robert Gavin for sitting down with Albany Police Union President Greg McGee to discuss issues plaguing the area related to law enforcement, law and order, racial equality, and safety and security as the region has descended into chaos, rioting and looting following the death of George Floyd, a black man killed by a white police officer in Minnesota. Joy repeatedly questioned the whereabouts of 20th Congressional District incumbent Paul Tonko, calling the representative impossible to locate at a time when people need strong leadership and accurate representation. Joy's focused efforts to win the 20th Congressional District seat and represent the people of the Capital Region has drawn the ire of many angry Tonko supporters who have launched a series of attacks, including vicious name-calling, death threats, and calls for Joy to drop out of the race. However, Liz Joy says she refuses to buckle and continues to press forward, calling social media haters cowards who were too scared to sign their own names to the threats they made. Earlier in the week, as the region was plagued by continuing riots, Liz Joy, while repeatedly pointing out the absence of incumbent Paul Tonko, traveled to the Albany police station to drop off food and drinks in preparation for long nights on patrol for area police who continue to serve the city in spite of having bricks and firecrackers thrown at them by violent protesters, angry mobs, and even Antifa members who have been bussed into the area to increase the havoc. In a statement, McGee, who has been very vocal about the injustice of George Floyd's murder at the hands of a police officer, said, "The actions of anarchists place numerous officers in danger of serious physical injury and place the peaceful members of this community in danger by their actions." McGee also pointed out that violent actions would not be tolerated, saying that at some point, the full extent of the law would be brought down upon offenders, and that the members of Albany Police Department would continue to do their best to protect every member of the community, identify those responsible for coming into the city and trying to destroy it. McGee also noted that New York Senator Chuck Schumer, Representative Paul Tonko, who Liz Joy is running against, Kirsten Gillibrand, Democrat Albany County Executive Dan McCoy, and Governor Cuomo have been noticeably absent from the front lines. The New York State Thruway Authority cash toll collection system will resume along the Thruway, replacing emergency toll procedures that have been in place since March 22nd. Once again, drivers will receive a toll ticket upon entry and be able to pay their tolls with cash at staffed lanes when exiting the Thruway. Drivers with Easy Pass will continue to experience no-contact travel and payment at all tolling locations. Non-Easy Pass customers who traveled the Thruway's ticketed system between March 22nd and May 31st will receive one toll bill with all the accumulated tolls and no additional fees. Toll bills will be mailed to the registered owner of the vehicle at the address on file with the DMV. Thruway Authority Executive Director Matthew J. Driscoll said in a press release that the agency will be taking every step possible to protect its workforce and drivers while continuing a high level of service to customers. As the collection of cash tolls resumes, enhanced safety measures will also be in place at all toll plazas for the protection of toll collectors and motorists alike. The installation of plexiglass will now separate collectors and motorists to protect against the spread of COVID-19. Toll collection staff will continue to wear face coverings and sanitize workstations periodically throughout their shifts. Cash customers may experience delays at toll plazas as regions across the state begin new phases of the reopening process. The Thruway Authority urged motorists to sign up for Easy Pass, the only non-contact method to pay tolls. Construction, meanwhile, continues on the system-wide transition to cashless tolling by the end of 2020, when cash payments will no longer be accepted on the state's Thruway system. The National Weather Service confirmed Saturday that a tornado touched down at Lake Luzerne on Friday evening of last week. The EF1 tornado touched down near the Hudson River close to Hawk Road in the area and then moved northeast along those roads, hitting both ends of Hartman Loop before continuing along Corinth Road, according to a summary provided by the National Weather Service. The tornado then crossed the Northway at exit 18, where it uprooted trees in a nearby cemetery and ended in Glens Falls near the Queensbury Hotel. The destructive cyclone lasted approximately 6 minutes and traveled a distance of nearly 9 miles. EF1 tornadoes have winds of 86 to 110 miles per hour. The storm caused many downed tree limbs and branches and power lines, as well as damages to roofs of businesses and homes in the area. Warren County Public Works Superintendent Kevin Hayhouse said that some of the worst damage was along a path that ran from Corinth right through Main Street into Glens Falls. At its peak, more than 11,000 customers in Warren, Washington, and Saratoga counties were without power. The storm also shut down the Northway between exits 17 and 19 for several hours because of downed trees and power lines, according to state police. Although tornadoes in the area are rare, an EF1 tornado did touch down in Wilton on May 14th, making it the second time in 2 weeks that the region has been hit by a tornado. Routine vaccinations for children are down across the country significantly, and numbers are continuing to decline in the capital region as well. Area pediatricians fear there could be more to worry about than another potential wave of COVID-19, including the spread of multiple infectious diseases that could be a direct consequence of delayed immunizations. The Centers for Disease Control is reporting that immunization for children fell to a concerning rate in the last few months compared to the same time frame in years past. Locally, Dr. Rebecca Butterfield, a pediatrician at Albany Medical Center, said area doctors are seeing an alarming decline as parents are less inclined to leave the house during the pandemic season and stay-at-home orders. Dr. Butterfield says people are afraid for their safety because of the coronavirus and are canceling and delaying well care visits. But Albany County Health Commissioner Dr. Elizabeth Whalen says time is of the essence, noting that if vaccines are not administered or not administered on time, they could open up a dangerous window if patients have had exposure to a vaccine-preventable disease, making them vulnerable to contracting the disease. The medical community is now sounding the alarm about mini epidemics of childhood diseases like measles, mumps, and rubella, whooping cough, and chickenpox. Additionally, in New York State, public education requires all children be up to date with their vaccines. Many healthcare professionals are reaching out to the public, urging them to get their children vaccinated. Dr. Butterfield pointed out that hospitals and clinics in the area have implemented strict safety measures over the last few months, including adopting different schedules for well children versus sick children and making sure that individuals are spending minimal time in the waiting room. There's also vigorous cleaning and sanitizing after each patient, social distancing, and mandatory mask wearing. As such, Capital Region doctors are urging parents to take their kids to the doctor's office and get their vaccinations caught up. Aplasmosis, a tick-borne illness with symptoms similar to COVID-19, the disease caused by the novel coronavirus, is on the rise in the Adirondacks and upstate New York. It's a concern for state health officials as more people go outside as fears from the coronavirus pandemic start to subside. Symptoms of anaplasmosis include fever, muscle aches, and even respiratory failure. All similar signs of the infectious COVID-19 disease that has killed more than 100,000 people in the United States this year. If left untreated, anaplasmosis can also be fatal. The carriers are usually the deer tick or the black-legged tick. Byron Backinson, Deputy Director of the State Health Department's Bureau of Communicable Disease Control, said it has been a challenge to push past COVID-19 news and remind healthcare providers that tick-borne illnesses are still a major problem. While Lyme disease tends to get the spotlight and is still the most prevalent tick-borne illness in the state with more than 5,500 new cases each year, local researchers are seeing a trend in more cases of anaplasmosis, particularly in the northeastern part of New York, including specifically Washington, Warren, Saratoga, and Rensselaer counties. The state collects data from county health departments and healthcare providers about what tick-borne diseases people are contracting, and it also collects ticks to see what bacteria they're carrying that causes the disease. Unlike the unpredictable and often inaccurate test for Lyme disease, researchers say the test for anaplasmosis is easy and is often treated with antibiotics, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Backinson said the health department is also working with Vermont health officials on the outbreak. Research on tick-borne diseases relies heavily on state funding, which has decreased steadily this year. According to Backinson, ticks are especially a problem in the region from late May through early July when baby ticks are out, called nymphs, which are difficult to see and are about the size of a poppy seed. Unseasoned hikers looking to get out of the house during the pandemic are less aware and less experienced at identifying ticks and tick bites and are more likely to be bitten and not realize they have been bitten, Backinson says. According to Backinson, there are areas of the state where ticks are much more infected with the bacteria that cause anaplasmosis. In 2018, nearly 20% of the ticks researchers collected and tested carried the anaplasmosis-associated bacterium in Warren County, home of Lake George. That's compared to 2009, when no ticks in the area carried the bacterium. Ticks typically thrive in warm, low-elevation woods and fields, but researchers are seeing more in the Adirondacks and also at higher elevations. Boutique fitness studios in the Capital Region are banding together to try to reopen sooner rather than later. The female-owned small businesses across the region don't want to wait until Phase 4 to reopen. The Hot Yoga Spot, Girl Fight Fitness, Revolution Spin, and others like Hit with Brit are sticking together to try to have their voices heard. Many of their business models include appointment-based visits with no contact and small groups, in addition to constant cleaning, making them, they say, safer than many other businesses already allowed to reopen. The women-owned fitness businesses in the region have been working since early April to have their reopen plans approved by county executives and the state, but they haven't gotten a straight answer, leading them to take matters into their own hands. Right now, the fitness studios are categorized with gyms and other recreational activities set to reopen in Phase 4, but business owners say that's not fair. With the plans they've created and reimagined studio spaces, they believe they can open tomorrow in a safer manner than most essential businesses are already operating. Small business owners across the Capital Region, spanning all types of products, goods, and services, have cried out to Governor Cuomo, saying they run the risk of closing forever if they don't open soon. Compound that with the damage done by recent rioting in the region, small businesses in New York State are under threat more than ever. However, Governor Cuomo has continued to stick to the reopening plan in spite of increasing criticism from both sides of the aisle.
You've been listening to The Issues in and around the Capital Region. In upstate New York, I'm Alicia Purdy.